Well, hello, everyone. Here we are together in 2025. It's so nice to see everyone. And so now not too many people with us here. I know we have a special guest that's going to be recognized here in a few moments, so look forward to that. But for start of business, I'm going to call to order the Kalamazoo City Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, January 6th, 2025. And the first order of business is roll call. Yes, Clerk Shelby.
Commissioner Cooney. Present. Commissioner Decker.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman.
Present.
Commissioner Praedel.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Hess.
Present.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you so much, Clerk Shelby. And Communications, COO Lamb.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Tonight, I have the privilege of introducing our new Labor Relations Human Resources Director, James Henderson. If you want to come on up to the podium. James' first day is today, and he's still standing, still has a smile on his face, so we'll take that as a good sign. We're really, really excited about James joining the HR team. He really impressed our panel, impressed the HR team, impressed our senior leadership. A very positive attitude, a very can-do attitude. I don't think there's much that's been thrown at him that he hasn't been able to handle. So we're hoping to have his transition smooth, at least for the first week, and then we'll really go tough on him. But I just wanted to make sure you all had a chance to introduce himself to you all, and then certainly in the coming weeks and months, you'll have more opportunities to work with him.
You know, first of all, just want to take this opportunity to thank the city management group for having me. I'm super excited to be here. This is truly a case of this is where I want to be. So I can't wait to get here and get my feet wet and get to meet everyone, but especially to meet council also, because I know that whether you're called aldermen, councilmen, commissioners, you all do the same thing. You're a legislative body. So I think that it's so great to get to know the legislative body, because to me, I see my job as, you know, when you look at government, you guys are the legislative branch. City management's kind of the executive branch. So you give the vision, and it's kind of my job to execute that vision. So I can't wait to get to know everyone, and can't really wait to get to work with everyone. So again, I'm just super excited about being here, and my door is always open, and I've got a cell phone number somewhere, even I don't know it, but it'll be on my email signature. But if you ever need anyone in HR, my door is always open. So again, great. It's good to meet everyone. All right.
Thank you so much. We're honored to have you here. And as a matter of fact, I have a feeling we'll probably be having a lot of interactions here going forward in this coming year. So look forward to that. Now is the opportunity for public comments. This is an opportunity for anyone who's in the chambers to make a comment. You'll have 2 minutes. Please come forward, state your name and whether you live in the city.
Good evening, everybody, and I'm wishing you a new year full of happy surprises. As soon as I heard that your work session tonight was about the city's sustainability work, I wanted to come as a member of Hope for Creation. Hope for Creation is a network of congregations, interfaith network, and we're the ones that ask the city to recycle styrofoam. And I am here to tell you, Hope for Creation, our members are really happy with the job that the city's doing. I'm one of the people that volunteers on the Saturday at Mayor's Riverfront Park each quarter of the year, plus the extra one after Christmas, to collect styrofoam from all the people in the city and around the city who are so grateful to us. It's like the best volunteer job because we get so much thanks from all the people bringing us their styrofoam that doesn't have to go in the landfill. And the city has done a great job. I want to especially mention Chris Broadbent, who's in charge of recycling, and Justin Gish, his boss, who was also there the end of December on Saturday, because they've added one category of things after another that can't be recycled in the normal recycling that now people can bring to Mayor's Riverfront Park, including all your old electronics. All the small stuff is free, and just big things cost $10. And paper shredding, big amounts of paper shredding are accepted for free. And now your old toothpaste tubes.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the chambers who would like to provide comments for our Committee of the Whole meeting? Seeing no one else at this time, now we are down to the work of our Committee of the Whole meeting this evening. COO Lamb.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Justin Gish up here to give us an update on sustainability work. Justin is our sustainability planner, referenced by Toby in her comments.
Welcome, Mr. Gish.
All right. Hello. Again, Justin Gish, Sustainability Planner for the City of Kalamazoo. So maybe about a year ago, last year, I gave you the 2022 greenhouse gas report for the city, or at least for the 2022 calendar year. Today, we're going to go through 2023, explain why, the timing's a little bit off on some of this stuff or seems wonky. But so we're looking at 2023 greenhouse gas numbers, and then kind of more broadly, the 2023, 2024 sustainability work that CPED has been doing. Public Services does a lot of great work. Parks does a lot of great work. I'm going to talk a little about the work that we've done in CPED and kind of partnering with those other departments.
There we go.
All right. So again, just kind of the two guiding documents that I follow in my work here, Imagine Kalamazoo 2025 and the Community Sustainability Plan. One nice box we're able to check off this year. Imagine Kalamazoo called for the city to explore citywide green energy, or explore a citywide green energy purchasing program. We all did that this year. So going forward, 2028, we'll be purchasing green energy from consumers. So we can check that box and move on to the rest of the multiple boxes that we need to check going forward. Again, the Community Sustainability Plan. So here you have the key performance indicators that are set up for this plan. In 2023, 2024, since I came on board here in partnership with other departments, we've hit some of these KPIs already. So pedestrian miles traveled and cycling miles traveled is trending up. Hope to see that continue. Some of the work in the traffic calming that CPED's done. We purchased 2 electric vehicles for the city's fleet, so we increased the electric vehicles in the city's fleet by 200%. Sounds better when you say it that way, but we went from 0 to 2. The city received $1 million tree grant to do tree work and tree planting in the city. The city passed 50% in September of the lead service line replacements, and we're looking to surpass the 75% goal by 2027. And then recycling or composting material is way above the mark here. We're about 5,000 tons with the goal of 2,000 tons. So we're on our track, hitting our KPIs. We're moving in the right direction here. We also added 480 new recycle carts in 2024. So residences that didn't have a recycle cart, we got them a recycle cart. We've increased that. Oh, that's not Chris. Chris Broadbent will be here in a little bit. He's done a lot of that great work. And then, there's 4 themes of the sustainability plan. So embedded in all of those themes are goals and strategies. We won't go through them all, but these are some of the things that we've done to kind of hit some of those goals based on strategies suggested in the Community Sustainability Plan. So we've done invasive species pulls on park properties in Millen Park and Oakland Park. Native species plantings on both those parks. We held a natural world symposium to educate folks on native plantings and no mow May and the urban deer issue. Did some bat box building and learning night where we taught folks about bats and conservation and integrated pest management. Some bike route audits, did some Japanese knotweed eradication demonstrations in local parks, worked with neighborhood groups like Parkview Hills for their reduce, reuse, recycle, compost event. Held an energy efficiency summit where we try to teach folks and educate folks about the Inflation Reduction Act and how they can get some money back for making green choices in their homes. Held Kalamazoo's first Solarize event where we bring folks together to do a bulk buying for solar panels for their homes. Worked with Chris Broadbent again to put put composters in neighborhood gardens. Again, we had our No Mow May campaign, and we achieved gold certification as awarded by the Michigan Green Communities Challenge in 2024. So all that to say, I think we're moving in the right direction. Got a very responsive community. Toby left, but Toby's one of them. So great folks to work with in the community and in the city as well. All right, so it's kind of just the broad strokes stuff, and I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So the meat of this, though, is the 2023 municipal greenhouse gas emissions. So remember, the Community Sustainability Plan calls for the City of Kalamazoo to get to net zero by 2050. In 2023, we were responsible for 50,053 metric tons of CO2e, and in 2023, we didn't increase by much, less than 1%. The big jump there is because I wasn't able to get data for one category. I got the data this year, so that's in there. But adjusted for that, we only increased by 1%. So we're not getting too far away from the goal. We still have time to turn it around. Again, so the way I categorize these emissions, broken into buildings and facilities, streetlights and traffic signals, vehicle fleet, employee commute, that's the new one, and then solid waste facilities and water and wastewater treatment facilities. So again, I collect data for all of these categories, I put them into my spreadsheet, and then I get the numbers here. We'll go through the numbers quickly. I'll save time for questions. So buildings, facilities, we saw a decrease in emissions from buildings, facilities of 2.5%. It's kind of tricky there because most of that is because we're using energy, natural gas, electricity in the Stockbridge buildings. In 2022, those buildings were torn down. So it's not really a sustainable way to decrease energy use on this front, but we'll take it here. Decrease there of 2.5%. Streetlights and traffic signals in 2022, the city, we pay those bills, so we're responsible for them. In 2022, it was 2,668 metric tons. We saw a decrease of 4.9%. And that's just to consumers and our public services folks putting in LED lights, more efficient systems there. So we can keep trending down in that route. Vehicle fleet. So here's where we saw an increase, but I think it might be, there's a silver lining there because we're hiring more people to do more work in the city. More people are driving cars, more public safety officers, more so it just shows that we're doing more work. We did switch to biodiesel in 2023, and that saved us about 86 metric tons of CO2e. If we hadn't switched with biodiesel, these numbers would be higher. You'd add 86 tons there. Biodiesel is important too. It also decreases particulate matter in the atmosphere, and there's less sulfur released. So numbers look a little rough. We can work on those. Purchasing those electric vehicles will help here if we can figure out ways to power them from renewable sources. Employee commute. So this was the new number. So this was 0 in 2022. Just wasn't able to get the data. This year I got the data, and we're at about 1,500 metric tons of CO2e released. And that's just from city employees driving to work and from work from their homes. So again, water and wastewater facilities is kind of the driver here. It's about half of our total emissions. We saw an increase there, and that increase is just increased flow rate. We're treating more water. More water's coming to us. We need to use energy to clean that water. But still, the increase is only 3%. And then again, we saw a decrease here. Most of that was because we discontinued the controlled combustion of woody debris, and then fewer leaves were picked up this year. And that's cyclical. If there's more leaves based on a wetter summer, we really can't control a lot of that. But again, biosolids dominates here. It's 98% of those emissions. It's almost all biosolids. That's just all the waste that leaves the wastewater treatment plant, heads east, goes into landfill, sits there, decomposes, releases methane. So just kind of looking at it with the broad, kind of the basic numbers that I used before I input them. So those numbers before were metric tons of CO2e. These are just kind of this energy use numbers here. So we're increasing our electricity use At the city, we went from 50 million kilowatt hours to about 51 kilowatt hours in 2023. And then natural gas decreased. Natural gas you generally use for heating. So I'd have to look at those numbers and really crunch them to see if it was related to a warmer winter or not. But we saw a decrease there in natural gas. But this is where we're at as far as how much energy we use at the city. Try to break it down a little bit to look at, where are the big users. And far and away, these three, these are the big users here. So Crosstown uses the most kilowatt hours of electricity, followed by City Hall. You can see here, Crosstown, there was not a really there's a negligible increase. City Hall increased their kilowatts, their electricity use from 2022 to 2023. This is a nut I've been able to crack yet. I'm working with Christina Anderson on this one, trying to figure out what's going on in the Epic Center parking ramp. So they're using a ton of electricity there. Could be old elevators, but I don't know yet. But then, and you can see, so that's electricity, and then natural gas there is the sidewalk heating system that dominates as well. And that would suggest that we did see kind of a less snowfall last year, that energy use is down. And then public safety, just big building with people in there all the time, and then the metro buildings. But so that's where most of our energy is going. You have these, but then you also have, scattered pump houses and lift stations and pools and things like that. So again, everyone's thinking how this works in 2028 when we switch over to our program. And essentially everything will be the same. The accounting will be different. So I will get some certificates that I can use to kind of write off some of these numbers. But remember, we're capped at 48 million kilowatt hours. So we can think of that as kind of our budget, essentially. We have to stay within that 48 million if we want to see those gains. So I think, focusing more on efficiency, looking at these numbers, trying to figure out where we can kind of, focus our efforts will help us hit our net zero goals by 2050. And again, that 48 million, though, that's not, it's impressive. It's 52% of our emissions. So signing that deal, really kind of halved what we contribute as far as my accounting goes. So that's the energy numbers. I'll briefly talk about some solid waste numbers I got from Chris Broadbent. You can see our recycling tons by month fluctuates a little bit, but still we're in pretty good shape here. It's up 5.94% from 2023. So these are 2024 numbers. Chris is able to get numbers quicker than I am. So recycling's up. Brush collection is up again, up 1.84%. Based on 2023 numbers. And then leaves as well. Composting plenty of leaves, and they're still working now. 2024 was cut short a little bit there because of some snow events. But that's it. So, ran through that pretty quick, but I'm really more excited about answering questions or anything that you all might want to know from me.
Well, thank you so much. It's great to have you here, Mr. Gish, and I appreciate you doing the work with the team every single day. Questions from commissioners? Commissioner Pradle.
Justin, thanks for being here. I was wondering if you could help me process something that I've been thinking a lot about. So, we have recycling pickup currently in the city. It's every other week. I started to think about this in 2020 because started to notice like a sociological trend where, you just look at your street, you see far more boxes sitting on people's porches because people are getting far more things delivered to their house instead of going to traditional brick and mortar locations to buy things. And what I find is even just looking from 2020 to now, you drive down a lot of streets, people's recyclings are jam-packed, I guess, if you will, because you're waiting 2 weeks because their habits have changed. But then you also hear the challenges because then at the same time you have a big, presumably diesel truck plowing through every single street, picking up every single container. Are we ever at a point where we say to ourselves we maybe need to add weekly recycle pickup, or looking at the numbers or research nationwide, does it show that that's actually not a net benefit because of more trucks going up and down the streets once a week? The thing I also notice is when we have bulk pickup, I notice far more people take boxes out to bulk pickup now because people are getting so much more box material or cardboard material that they need to recycle. They can't cram their recycle bin enough with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with that?
Yep. Yeah, so I'll go after two, or the first one real quick. Yeah, so you're right. Recycling's every other week, and if Chris is here, yeah, you want to come up or just nod when I say? All right. Yeah. So my understanding, you do the every other week because there's one truck that does it all.
Hey, my name is Chris Broadbent. I serve as the solid waste coordinator from Public Services. So we have one recycle truck that does about 90% of the recycle routes, and then there are two routes, the Thursday A route and the Monday B route, that are supplemented by another vehicle. So I think to your point about the weekly pickups, sounds like a dream scenario for a lot of communities. Right now, our contract runs through 2027 for the every other week service cycle. And yeah, you're talking about a personal and professional pet peeve of mine, the cardboard boxes in the bulk trash program. So we moved the program guidelines to try to restrict that type of activity for bulk trash and encourage more people to put those materials in their recycle container. The cardboard, OCC, or corrugated cardboard, is the #1 sought after commodity on the recycle market. It can sell from $100 to $160 a ton. Think, packaged up cubes of clean cardboard material. So I'd like to see more of that get recycled. And the carts are 96 gallons. As far as I've learned, the move in 2017 to the cart system really helped more people participate. Carts and curbside pickups are the #1 accessibility and equity option for recycle programs. So I think it's a great question to start investigating and look further into.
I'd be curious if it's not too much for administration, just in future budget years, to look at what would that look like if we did weekly pickup. But I would also like to know, like what are the pros and cons of both? Because again, I'm curious, again, if you've got truck emissions that are increasing significantly, is there still far greater benefit from all this solid recyclable waste that you're able to pick up? I'm curious about that impact of it as well.
Yeah, I think first we want to look at the numbers, because a lot of times we feel like something is needed, but maybe it's not needed.
Exactly, right.
So, do people really fill up those carts that fast? Yeah.
And maybe it's worth also looking at trend lines too, to see maybe there are certain months where it would be worth doing weekly, like maybe post holidays, or noticing, that there's a larger surge where maybe it'd be worth doing weekly for just a shorter period or something as a compromise. But just think it's something worth looking forward to. I've had a few people mention that, and it's just been an observation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we did try to hit some of the post-holiday glut of trash. So we accepted cardboard as well at the EPS foam pickup. And that's why you held the EPS foam pickup, is because you'd be amazed at how many people got new TVs and had nowhere to put that styrofoam. So it came to us right after the holidays.
Yeah, for sure. I was also kind of curious as well. There was that pilot program this year about the reusable containers downtown, and I think there were a lot of people who were very excited about it. There were quite a few jokes about it from the public. Just was curious about your perception of how things went.
Yeah, all right, yeah, we'll go there. Yep, so working with Vice Mayor Hess, we were able to secure donations to fund this pilot program, to work with restaurants to adopt this this program. Restaurants weren't able to make it work, so it never got off the ground.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know how much more we want to say.
I was just curious.
It was a great idea. We tried to check every box. We did a survey first. There's definitely interest, but just logistically, it just didn't get off the ground. Yeah, everyone will point to. Again, I sound gripey when I do this. You look at Ann Arbor's program. It quickly becomes unwieldy anyway. So we were looking to work with a company who has this type of setup throughout the Midwest, Minnesota, Chicago, called Foreverware. Ann Arbor's program, they created their program, and they ended up having to partner with a nonprofit that was created to manage it. So Yeah, a lot of moving parts there. Yeah, you won't see them downtown this year, maybe next.
Other question as well is I remember a while ago having some conversations with Jay Slaby talking about a bike rack pilot where, if I'm not mistaken, like the idea was is giving grants to like small businesses or supporting small businesses to add like bike infrastructure outside of their establishments to try to encourage people to use that mode of transportation more in the community and stuff. And I was curious if there's been any more movement on that, success with that work as well.
Yep. Yeah. So again, when I ran through all of those kind of things we did, so one of those was a bike audit that tracked a route from the Northside Community Center to Kickpool. So we were looking at that as a resilience initiative. So in the summer, it's hot. Folks can take their bike from the north side to Kickpool. And one of the main findings we saw was that there wasn't great bike parking there. So we're working with parks to get bike parking in there. And the same at Bronson as well, to have like a hub. I can't speak specifically to businesses, but those two spots we're looking to put in, the nice bike racks that everyone likes to use, maybe some covered bike parking at the Kickpool and Bronson Park there.
For sure. And then lastly, this is kind of a random question as well for the numbers that you're showing here, but obviously I'm sure in a position like yours, you'd much prefer to get up in front and say, hey, look, we've reduced each of these by 10% in the last couple of years or whatever. But how do you reconcile that with a community like ours that has so much growth in so many areas? So you're not really comparing apples to apples from year to year because so much is growing and happening in the city simultaneously while we're making strides to reduce emissions and waste and those sort of things. So how do you reconcile that? How do you communicate that to the community in a way where people are like, yeah, we're making strides, we're making progress, but you're going to notice the numbers aren't necessarily taking a huge dip when you look at the graph because all these things are happening simultaneously at the same time that we are taking steps to improve ourselves.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, it's education, it's talking to folks, letting them know what the numbers are, putting the numbers out there. We were just lucky that I didn't try to go into scope 3, which includes like construction numbers and purchasing and things like that. So I kind of stuck to the basics there. Otherwise, it'd be off. Yeah, everyone would be. It's not an our problem. There's not an us problem. It's an our problem. But yeah, just explaining to folks, trying to put it in context too. You hear 50,000 metric tons, and you think, oh my gosh. But then you look at when I presented the community numbers are over 2 million metric tons. Western's power plant, I believe last time they reported was 60,000 metric tons. So trying to put it into context, just that way.
For sure. And just quick, just accolades to you. I know I forwarded some kudos to you when it happened, but I know you were recognized in the work that the team's doing with Michigan Municipal League, I think recently, if I'm not mistaken. But
that was a city thing. It was cool. I just sent the checklist in there, but it's public services. It's everyone. This is a great place. Mm-hmm. People really do seem to care.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Prado. Commissioner Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Justin.
Yep.
I love seeing all these different projects and programs meant to kind of help get us towards our sustainability goals. One that ended up being a bit controversial, No Mo May.
Yeah.
I had a couple questions on one. I wanted to know, I know that one of our goals was to increase the pollinators. I was wondering if it's too early to tell, or are we able to see any kind of indicators, any kind of metrics from No Mo May to see how successful it was?
Yeah.
What was the feedback? Is it coming back this year?
Something will come back. So No Mo May is great. It's a slogan that everyone seems to know. It's easy to get out there. But it's bigger than not mowing for May, right? So you got to have a focus on native plants. You have to have a focus on habitat and pesticide use and all those things. We didn't have a proper study to look at if we had more pollinators this year than last year. These kind of the tangible things that I can share with you is 380 or so people signed up. So we had that online form, and we asked them, can you estimate the size of your yard? And they put that in there and added all those up. It's about 33 acres, that folks committed to, not mowing or just kind of be more mindful of how they're, interacting with their small little habitat in front of their house. I did hear from some folks at Western that would like to do a master's thesis around No Mo May. So that could be something. They're also looking at, do native lawns or less mowing, capture more carbon in lawns. So yeah, we'll get some good data there. We got good folks at Western who are interested in some of this stuff. It will come back. Kalamazoo's not turning its back on native plants or going to be more mindful about, turf grass and how we use that stuff. What the slogan is, it'll be to be determined. And I guess now would be a good time to introduce you to the new My Healthy Climate course. You might remember Alexa. Alexa's no longer with us. Now we have Destiny's Tatina. So one of Destiny's first projects is we're trying to kind of revamp No Mo May. So we're working with some of the folks in the ECC there. So yeah, something will happen. Will it be No Mo May? Who knows? I guess just stay tuned.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Cooney.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Justin, a couple things. I'm displaying my ignorance. Can you explain what this green energy purchasing program is? I think I know what that means. Does it mean that we're buying into the solar programs that Consumer Energy provides? Is that what it means?
Yeah, that's the agreement we made with Consumers Energy to purchase 48 million kilowatt hours of green energy, right? So, yeah, when was that? September? Yep, so we agreed. So it's kind of tricky, it's kind of odd. So the energy, you're not tracking electrons, but they know that 48 million kilowatt hours, they need to produce 48 million kilowatt hours from renewable energy. And then I'll get a certificate from them that I can then use in my accounting that proves that we purchased 48 million kilowatt hours of solar energy. So nothing's going to change from our end. The lights still come on the way they do. There won't be solar panels on buildings, but we have an agreement with them that they will provide at least 48 million kilowatt hours into the grid that we can claim as our own because we purchased it.
So what percentage would that be of our use?
Of our
electric use, yeah.
Oh, I mean, almost 95% of the use.
Okay.
And then that will result in about 52% of our emissions going down.
Okay.
So we could roll just about everything except the unmetered stuff. So the streetlights and traffic signals couldn't go in. And that's, about 3 million metric ton or 3 million kilowatt hours.
Okay.
But again, we got to be mindful as our energy use increases that 48 is less impressive, right? So if we double it and go, well, we use 100 million kilowatt hours, then, our impact shrinks a little bit, so.
Okay, thank you for that. The second question I got is, I think there had been some talk before, and I know there had been talk before, of taking land in the city which is not able to be used because it's too contaminated and putting solar panels on them. Is that still a possibility? Are we doing it? I mean, other cities are doing that, right?
Anything's possible, but everything's complicated. So with these, you're really looking for these Goldilocks parcels for some of this stuff. It needs to be near distribution lines or substations. I get this question all the time. I jokingly say, anytime anyone sees a bare half an acre, I'm supposed to put solar panels on it. There's the engineering that goes into that is tricky. I can say that we are exploring and have tried to explore options, but I can't make any promises yet. Generally, the size of some of these, the acreage that solar developers want to is not generally the types of parcels we have in the city, so upwards of 50 acres.
Okay.
So it gets tough there trying to find a parcel there.
Larger parcels.
Yeah, large, flat, kind of undeveloped parcels is what they want, generally.
And we don't have too many of them.
Not too many of those,
but
no.
we have some.
We have some somewhere, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Commissioner Cooney. Vice Mayor Hess.
Oh, sure. Hi, Justin.
Hey.
I'll ask Chris first. Chris, come on up. Oh, Chris, I got a few things for you. Got my postcard in the mail today about recycling. At recycling education, things that can go in your recycle bin and things that cannot. And that's an educational campaign. I think, was that funded by a grant?
I believe, yes. That's a grant from the Recycle Partnership and from EAGLE, formerly the DEQ for the state of Michigan, now Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy. They're funding a grant program to help us reduce contamination in the recycle carts and increase the amount of materials. So we're sending mailers to all participating recycling households.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. I keep trying to make my household read it. That said, what is the contamination rate of our recycled materials in Kalamazoo? And the postcard obviously is something that we're trying to do to address that. But can you talk a little bit about contamination rate of recycles? Because, people just throw stuff in there and think it doesn't matter. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk a little bit. I think our number one contaminant is bagged materials. Plastic film, plastic bags, residents and city users who are recycling, but they're gathering their materials in a trash bag or a plastic bag or a shopping bag and then putting that into the cart. So that's our number one contaminant issue for recycling. And we're actually in the midst of better understanding and evaluating that contamination rate. We have a smart camera system on the recycle truck 2421 that operates for 90% of the routes. That's going to be using its technology to capture contaminant in real time. And then we get heat map information, parcel by parcel, address by address, of which houses or pickups had contaminants in the cart. So that's a new program that's actually going to be sending postcards and direct mailers direct to households when the camera system finds that material in there. So as a coaching method
That
approach.
is awesome. Yeah, very good. Let's look at the game film, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So question, and there's been people going back and forth about this. What about the little window envelopes? Are those recyclable or not? The little envelopes that come with your bills in the window?
Yes, you can put those direct into your cart with your envelope right into the cart. It's recyclable. I've been doing it. The industry accepts those. They're part of the paper content. In the process, they'll melt that off. I won't go into the chemical bath that it gets, but I'm sure you can imagine that it takes care of everything except for the paper pulp and fibers, and then those, I've been assured, can go in the recycle cart.
You have just made my life 100% better. I saw over here in the city manager's office a little project that you're doing with coffee pods. Can you talk a little bit about that and how we can participate here in the city?
Yes. So many of the city facilities have K-cups, Keurig machines. Maybe you have one at home. And those cups are often made of either number 5 polypropylene or number 6 rigid plastic polystyrene. So the cups themselves can be recycled. However, they're filled with coffee grounds and have a little film layer on top. The coffee grounds and the film layer do not belong in our recycle carts. So we have been purchasing prepaid shipping boxes through a company called TerraCycle. It's a web-based recycle company out of Aurora, Illinois and New Jersey that we ship the coffee pods to. So throughout the city offices, we're collecting those pods. All of those get shipped to be recycled. And I've been assured they're composting the coffee grounds as well. We started, I think, in April.
Thank you. That is awesome. Thank you for that. Can individual households send their pods to TerraCycle, or how do they do that?
Yes. Individual households, anybody could participate, purchase the prepaid boxes through TerraCycle.com. They have a variety of recycling programs. I would say a lot of them are geared towards communities that don't have other recycling systems in place. We have a really rich and robust recycling program where we do pickups curbside for people. Not everybody in our county or even in the state of Michigan has that service available to them. So a lot of their customers are probably not accessing recycling in some of the same ways. But to answer your question, yes, people can buy the boxes themselves and send a variety of materials by mail. You could put it in the cart if you took out the coffee grounds and removed that film.
Or you could use a reusable K-cup.
Also a great option.
Just saying. Okay, cool. There's that. And is there a plan, Chris, moving forward for a citywide composting? Are you, I mean, I know we compost our leaves and so on, and I know we were talking about a little bit at ECC, but can you just tell the people?
Yeah, well, I would stress, like you said, the leaf collection program is all those materials are composted here in the city of Kalamazoo and then used in the Dairy Dew product by Morgan Composting, who's our contractor for that site and those materials. We have the brush program that should be in the slide packet that's operated by Best Way Disposal. They pick up yard waste, garden trimmings, tree branches less than 2 inches in diameter and less than 4 feet in length, and in bags that are biodegradable. I like those lawn and leaf bags from the hardware store. And we've been looking at and are trying to secure quotes for neighborhood drop-off food scrap recycling service. So we're in the process of seeking quotes. So if you know a business that would be interested in that, they've got through January 16th to get me their quote. And I'd be happy to share more information through Justin about that. That would be a pilot program.
I really appreciate all that you're doing in the short time you've been with the city to work with our solid waste program. So
yeah,
thank you.
Thank you, yeah. And thanks for your commitment to composting, which I know goes beyond this room.
Love the composting. So Justin, just a few quick questions, I hope. You mentioned the 200% electric vehicles. Where are those? Who's using those, and where are we charging them? And what are the plan for more chargers in the city?
Yep, so we got to distinguish between chargers for municipal use and chargers for public use. So I can't speak to public use right now, but private use, we are getting those charging stations on city property for those 2 electric vehicles, and I can confirm that Director Baker was driving in one of those vehicles last week. So they are 2 vehicles at Harrison there. They're operational, and yeah, it's just the start there.
They're going to love them. They're just going to love them, and they're going to want more. But is there a plan, do you know, are you working with planners to work on more chargers in the city? Is there a plan?
We have the start of a plan. Yeah, it's one of the goals.
Concepts of a plan.
Yeah. It's in the back of my mind always looking at trying to locations. There was a while there that the state of Michigan was going to put some in because we were right on that corridor that kind of came out of the blue. Yeah, I'm stumbling on this one, but I'll work on it.
Thank you.
Yep.
You also mentioned, and I know it's come up on ECC, but you mentioned really went quickly over the deer, urban deer situation. Can you tell us the latest on that, what people need to know, can know, where we are moving forward with that?
Yeah, so I forgot to mention that I also oversee the urban deer plan that the city has. So it's broken down into phases, phase 1 and phase 2. We're working our way into phase 2. So phase 1 was updating the fencing ordinances, education, things like that. Phase 2 is going to be looking at a survey and trying to figure a deer population study, deer population survey, where the deer are. That's going to cost some money, so we're looking at a budget request there. So we're on phase 2, but right now it's still phase 1. All that information's on the city's website. Folks can learn how to kind of protect their property and their plants from deer, how to live with deer. It's what they call a wicked problem. There's like no good one solution there. So right now we're just focused on education. If we can do some more studies and try to figure out where deer are, then we can take the next step. But until then, it's just education and in phase 1 there.
Okay, thank you very much, and keeping an eye out for them on the roads.
Slower speeds, talking to our traffic engineers, slower speeds is the number one, or high speeds is the number one cause of deer vehicle collisions. Absolutely. So it's not just the deer, it's also the way we act around deer. So we have to take some responsibility as people.
Indeed. And lastly, I just said, you mentioned that you're partnering with WMU for some master's theses and so on, and I love the fact that you're doing that, and anywhere that we could partner with any of the education institutions would be awesome to help us with our data collection on any number of things.
If they're watching, just email me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Other questions? Yeah, Commissioner Cooney?
So, I was in Philadelphia a couple years ago, and they have an ordinance that forbids plastic bags.
Yep.
You have to use paper. I know that there is a state law that prohibits us from doing that, which is crazy. What can we do to get rid of that state law? Because it seems to me that plastic is one of the worst things that's going on with preventing sustainability. It's just
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, changing the state laws up to state legislatures. I mean, but we can change our own behaviors, and we don't need to change the law if we all just kind of are more cognizant of how we consume and shop and buy, and, you know, we can bring our own reusable containers. Yeah, so I struggle with that one too. But then again, you think about how many reusable bags you have in your house that you don't use, and there's certain life cycle analyses that show that, you know, those thin plastic shopping bags have less of a life cycle harm than, you know, a cotton organic reusable bag, which comes out poorly in some scenarios. See, again, none of this makes any sense. It's very complicated and tricky. So I would just encourage folks, just be mindful of how much, where you go, where you shop. Make sure you're bringing your reusable bag if that's what you want to do, and talk to your state legislature, or your state elected officials if you want to see that ban on bans removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, team, at this time? All right, I've got a few for you here.
All right.
And one is crystal ball, and I know there's no way to tell, but how will you be watching for what the future of incentives might be now as we head into 2025? And there's been a fairly strong list of incentive programs out there for, you know, all things sustainable and environmental. Any thoughts about that? How are you going to be paying attention to that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's not just me in a bubble. So again, that Michigan Read Communities, that's all the Michigan communities that have sustainability goals and programs get together, you know, monthly to talk about these issues. So hearing from those folks, and I'm also partnering with national organizations that keep me, you know, kind of aware of what's going on. Things that I've heard so far is that you're alluding to or trying to get to the Inflation Reduction Act. It doesn't sound like that's going to go away anytime soon. Parts of it might, but the folks that I've been hearing from say, you know, most of that's going to stay intact. So again, you know, things like the direct pay option where cities can file a tax return and get some of the some direct pay benefits back for their improvements. You know, that stuff sounds like it'll stick around, so we try to figure out ways to kind of capture some of that.
Great, I appreciate that. And I appreciate any updates that you might be able to share as that information, you know, becomes more evident or more available. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
How are we working with the county sustainability coordinator?
Pretty well. I serve on the steering committee, or the kind of the committee that Taylor heads up. So I'm there every other month talking with them. You might have heard that this county got an impressive grant of upwards of, or just about $20 million. I think it was $18 million to do energy efficiency work in the city. We were a sponsor or a partner on that grant, so we'll be helping Taylor kind of achieve those goals. Yeah, I could text her right now if you really want me to know, but try to say that, yeah, we work well. Yeah. Taylor's great.
Great.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. Hey, just referencing your big three list, which obviously did not include water or wastewater, right?
Yeah, correct.
Which I'm sure would dwarf everything that was on your big three list there.
Yeah. That's a totally different animal. Yeah. Stockbridge is on there, but Stockbridge doesn't make the cut, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just another thing along those lines, I know there's been more interest with the idea of clean city and litter pickup programs and that sort of thing. And I know there's some Western students that are involved in getting that started. I don't know if we're contemplating anything more related to that in this coming year, but that'd be something I'd be supportive of. So.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned, or we brought up the usable container program. Some of that funding, the funders have allowed for us to use that funding elsewhere. So we're looking at things like that. We could have some plogging events. If you don't know what plogging is, you can look that one up. It's where people jog and pick up trash. It's the Scandinavian thing. Gazelle downtown already does some of those. So yeah, looking at creative ways. Working with, like you said, nonprofits or kind of like, you know, grassroots groups like Trash Love Kalamazoo. You know, Chris has been working with them. If you can see Chris still, if he's here. And then, we met with the Western students. Time to check back in with them now that break's over and they're back in session. But
Great.
That's on the radar too.
Yeah. Hey, just back to this question that you had, Commissioner Cooney, about using parcels of land that are somewhat orphans. That is something that Justin and I have been spending a lot of time working on, actually. And I would say a I mean, a lot of those big parcels are the legacy of us being Paper City, Kalamazoo. So we've got a lot of leftover parcels that can't be used for anything else, that are covered landfill sites, sometimes Superfund. And I would say the biggest single issue related to installing solar on those sites is concerns about liability. So that's the thing that hasn't been answered yet, is that, so you got a cap site, which has got very particular rules for maintaining it and staying off of it. What happens if you do install a system, even if it's a surface type system, and a parcel like that, if there's any disturbance, which then opens, you know, that cap, disturbs it in some way, and then there's issues out of that related to liability. So I think that is the biggest, in my mind, single question that's got to be answered, is where does that liability fall if that sort of thing happens, which is really, really unfortunate, because I think this is the most viable use for, you know, for serious brownfields in urban core cities like ours that now have vast swaths of land. And we have 65-acre sites in the city of Kalamazoo that literally cannot be used for anything, or even have trees grow on them, because the roots would disturb the cap. So it would be really, really great for us if we could find, I mean, it'd be, in essence, if there is a perfect solution to a big, big problem, this would be one, to be able to reuse those sites, yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking on Cork Street there. That
Exactly.
big place out there that we have not done anything with in 25 years.
Right.
And it just sits there.
Yes. Not owned by us, and so a liability issue would fall on the owner. And so that would be the question, and maybe that will be something we'll continue to think about this year, is how is there a way to address that liability issue? That's been, I would say, biggest contributor to the reluctance. I just want to say a couple other things, and I just thank you. Please pass our thanks on, Toby, to Hope for Creation crew and your support and your work and being supportive of all this. It means a lot. And it's interesting for me, I have some recycling at commercial sites, and so I'm familiar, I guess, with the cameras that recognize contamination, because at ISK we get a bill if our recycling is contaminated, which means then it can't be recycled, it's going to have to be dumped, and they charge us as if it were a dumpster full of garbage. So we're talking about a surveillance society, which we hear concerns about all the time, and now we're talking about watching everybody's individual recycling. I mean, it's just ironic to me. I don't know. But anyway, there we go, I guess. Nothing is private anymore. So that all said, thank you, Chris. Thank you to the team that's doing this work, and look for, you know, another successful year here working with our partners and moving this needle as we can. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Just wanted to also echo the thanks for both Justin and for Chris. I don't know about you all, but when I'm looking at the number at the bottom of a container, I'm picturing Chris. Like, I don't want to disappoint Chris. I got to get this right. So having people that are so passionate and so knowledgeable, so dedicated, I also really appreciate the attention to data. Translating that passion into data, showing that we are moving some needles, really goes a long way. So very much appreciate that for you both.
Thank you, COO Lamb. Now is the time on our agenda for commissioner comments. Just as a reminder for anyone that's paying attention, our business meeting starts at 7. There's an opportunity for commissioner comments at our 7 o'clock meeting. So generally speaking, commissioners take advantage of that time rather than this time during the committee of the whole. That said, are there any commissioner comments for this meeting? All right, thank you. Seeing none, then our business meeting starts at 7, and we are adjourned.